Ask Your Pharmacist is brought to you by Dragnet, your number one online pharmacy, and the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and proudly sponsored by Lita Pharmaceuticals, quality healthcare. With support from VitC-Fort, your best vitamin C plus zinc supplement from Samus Pharma.
It's another beautiful week, and I am super duper excited to come your way with another exciting discussion of Ask Your Pharmacist. You know, this is the only health show that is interactive, that helps you know more about that medical condition, treatment, and helps you learn more about your drugs. So I hope that by the end of today's discussion, you will be an inch closer to living right, being right, and staying right. My name is Peggy Sanron. You can find me on Instagram at FieryPeggy. And if you missed any of our episodes, if you would love to stay up to date, go on YouTube right now at My Pharmacist TV. Like, share, comment, and make sure you subscribe. Alrighty, I want you to understand that Ask Your Pharmacist, the week keeps the doctor away. So you definitely would love to lock in and watch till the end. Remember that this show is proudly brought to you by Dragnet. Dragnet is your number one online pharmacy. Download it on the Google Play Store, the App Store. Order all your medications, speak to a pharmacist. Baby, whether it's a chronic condition, Dragnet is going to put you on a scheduled refill, and wherever you are, Dragnet will deliver to you. Dragnet is your number one online pharmacy. This was also brought to you by the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana. Amicus Humani Generis. Pharmacists are indeed friends of the human race. This was also brought to you by Letal Pharmaceutical. Letamin is a multivitamin and mineral supplement for total strength and vitality, promotes mental performance, and boosts the immune system. Eshemu 30, debiawa pabaku wa kwedjuma, ebo ma wo ye djuma kokan, ebo ma wo sipi wo sita, esiesie wo. Inti bebia wo bia catch a pharmacist ne se wo pe Letamin. Follow on zinc and so eye mojedro tatashe. It has folic acid, it has iron and zinc that effectively reduces the risk of iron deficiency, supports your immunity, and promotes health and wellness. Into upe mojedra a ye juma. I mean, so to me for mojedro bebre, obekwane still now moja ewo from patch of all wrong zig the unya fire pe, and one is a ye juma. Let Tomox a sunsunedre shemuba kope. It's good for yourself, it's good for your family, everybody can take it, and it helps to treat intestinal worms. Into so would you wear me ache, ne busani do wear me ache, now shana yarian ya doswa. Me patch Banisunsunedra and Nwani Letamox. Letamin, Folaron Zinc, and Letamox are all available in any pharmacy near you. For bulk purchases, contact Leta Pharmaceuticals on 030-222-4613. Leta Pharmaceuticals, quality healthcare. This show is also supported by the Lady Pharmacists Association of Ghana, LAPAC, and the Young Pharmacists Group, YPG. This is also supported by VitC-Fort. It's a sugar-free vitamin C plus zinc supplement with the two insume dissolve yana one the dead just a sugar womb insulin sugar-free. So whatever be your medical condition, this is definitely recommended for you. For bulk purchases, contact Samus Pharma Limited on 050-164-6494. We are taking a quick breather. We'll come back and the show continues. Don't go anywhere.
I mean, they go office, they're coming from.
Me and the hospital class, we brought Dr. Choma with China.
I got to walk on the Zoom room, and then we're going to teach over black. Dragnet war. Dragnet, your online pharmacy. A group here beyond, and once I go up on the show, for what they put me to all, they did on the fee. And then no problem. Like the sales pharmacists are only between working of a group here on the arm. So you can't have one here. I'm running over past on the castle. Come on, go up on the show. Get you want to fear. Our prescription and running out of water. My order in the next 5 minutes, I'm telling you.
That's it.
Yes, you heard right. With Dragnet, life is now made simple. You too can download the Dragnet app on the Play Store or the App Store and experience a world of convenience. Dragnet, your number one online pharmacy.
Thank you for staying with us. You are watching Ask Your Pharmacist. Today we are coming to you from East Lagos. Matter of fact, we're actually in front of the ANC Mall. And our guest pharmacist is Dr. Seth Kweku Ofei Jr. He's a pharmacist at Life Chemist Pharmacy and also a pharmacist at Sadasco Pharmacy. Our topic for discussion is food poisoning. Farm, how are you doing?
I'm good by God's grace. How about you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Food poisoning, food poisoning. I've been hearing so much of it. We had so many incidents happening in the past couple of weeks. What is food poisoning?
Okay, so foodborne illness, or what is commonly called food poisoning, is an individual or is any illness that an individual gets when that person ingests or eats any contaminated food or spoiled food or any food that has some amount of toxin in them. That is what causes for food poisoning. So basically, that is what it is.
Okay, me kasi food poison a me dey meti ase fa ne say e bia aduane a ye nkeka bom ye keka bom no e bi wa emfa na ya keka bom na ye di because ye tin bi say ma okokura nya food poison bi am for koto aduane bi a ye food poison ba na ye hu ne say e bia installment no mo install you know e che ene ma this I how ne buy but e bia e kwan bell so na ye so e bia wonti ase no betima cheche we pharmacist no betima cheche ma che say e kwan bell so ne de ntina ma e ka se food poison na e ba ma ye so betima te ho ase say okay ade we ye we ya e food poison be ba na ye so etimi ho aboy ho pan afiri ho
Nti no me da say obi say a question no. Nti food poisoning ye ka simple. Eno no che say bia emmo bia o system nempe. Ena bia wodi akọ mu. Ena ma o symptom bi say bia o fe anasa oboso fron no anasa wiyim eya oya. Nti no basically ye say e be maintain anasa be ensure hygiene.
nti unsusu say food poison eye ensuo sorry eye aduane ana vegetables spend energy food poison ba na
Food poisoning ni aduane bia wodi ekọ wo system mu ebetuma ye nsuo ebetuma ye fruit vegetables aduane bia de be ko system bia wodi ye no a de how be ebro no ene your friend say food poisoning.
That's your friend Mr. Owusu. I mean, food poison, the minimum say, on say, I did one spy. Me say, media, almost many food poison. And I say, me cry me 2 weeks, best 2 weeks ago. Me, I'm a salad of you. Timidika can pan bear 8 no doom light. No question, no doom light. And maybe could dimidi pen I'm starting around here. Most of food poison. The food poison there. And you're marketing Chris and the bar. And the boy so food poison, maybe I inspire. Then so, what do when ya? What is the quite fast of Binyana dear, and you may be prepared. And two doctor a bit much mu see be a sin. I mean, come out in the Sally Mammy, no, my experience or home. I won't say the kind. I did a spider with dear, a more food point. It tossed me, you know. Me and Casam ye be. Because chef, you man light off on my film, say, good dear, me run papa. This animal and meaning for food poison.
Canon, it is we did any beer a more getting my fellow organisms. But Idiana so I no be a would do more, Ubenya infection. A boo said the necropole style stone no so one stone ye no could dear. So now would can example no. One stone ye could dear, with me any infection. Into a debia a core system would be no say making sure say handler near handing ye. If Uncle Banner sanity beer and more become Nissy could dear, a bit to me a high insanity. You can food poison also on tear say.
But so, Madame Metias and say, Adriana say, oh no more food spreading. By media, person bisa say, a den more food spreading because Madame insurance as a person may be sir.
Until the tennis say food poisoning ye, say beer and more be about Idianim, and I say, I call in Sumu, ne wafa call system. What I say, 2-4 system also when infection, any offend of food poisoning. Until bit more than say beer, we am a ya. If an abdominal pain, and I say, oh, fe, and I win a diarrhea, and I say, oh, boss of no, we take a bit of my pie, where symptoms be a chessy beer, who could be in the Nibia and more be a home, and our system near the empe, and a mouse are symptoms in you can food poisoner. And no, and I say no. But on a question, Ben also offer food poisoning or person will be some.
Okay. Question I want to say. Timothy Tunze, Oboa, say, Okudidi, one and now 4p, but acquired and Okoda, I'm sorry. But I see my drink say, it's me bassa, and I didn't Nasa, I may not have food poison, I may be a. I don't know to say, dwane okodi ye no obehwehwem na na se bi obi di aduro bi na atum ana ama nipa no ekum no ana se ma no yare ye
nti metwase a de tie ne se emo na e cause food poisoning no omugu ahodo so bebre omodoso na e cause food poisoning ebi wo krampo na wonya food poisoning a ehu hia se krapo se wo se hospital na se symptoms na ma no ano nye densa wa wo fie na bi a okọ baabi so onu misuo what I say etumi ema ohoto ba mo no bi wo so omo so omo no odin food poisoning ye kan wasim ko betumi eku bentansi ebetumi eku nti possible so say obi betumi ekodi eduane bi a emo bi wom ama na den ama na affect no ama na ko into bi efe bi shock efe bi even chronic kidney disease ebetumi edis ade na den aba ama no etumi ekum nti no all those things dey e common dey ba ebetumi esinti na nti na e wo say ye ahwe yi e fa na ye didi mu ene star ye handle eduane okay.
I attest for Mungosana Musha, ask your pharmacist.
Okay, so let's talk about the causes of food poisoning.
Okay, so with the causes of food poisoning, there are many of them. So what happens is that if an individual is there and come into contact with a food that is not properly cooked, okay, that may have some of the infectious organism in them. And this infectious organism could come from a bacterial source, or it could be a virus, or it could be a parasite. So when you come into contact with any food, okay, that is infected with some of these organisms, or if the food is spoiled, or if the food has some amount of toxin in them, and you come into contact with them, it could even be water. If it's infected and you drink it, them, then you may be infected with food poisoning. So these are, I mean, some of the causes of food poisoning.
Okay, because I know there was an incident that happened on Mowako a couple of weeks ago about food poisoning, and I've actually heard or had personal people, have food poisoning, not from eating from that source. So, are you saying that it could be from the fact that they ate something that was uncooked? Because the food they were probably eating looked delicious, and it's like it tasted cooked. So, what could at that point be the reason why they had that?
Okay, with the Morocco incident, I can't really tell as at now standing here. So that is why the FDA has come in and to actually do their investigation. So from the results or from what they are going to find out from their investigation, then they could actually pinpoint what actually caused the food poisoning. But what happens is that there are so many causes, okay? There are so many organisms, I mean, talking from the bacterial point of view or from the viral point of view. So if the food was not properly cooked, that means that usually organisms are around us. So sometimes they can come into contact with the food that we eat, okay? So if they are properly cooked, then that means that the infectious organism could be killed, such that when we eat them, we may not be infected. But for food that we do not normally cook them, or that do not normally pass through heat, like the salad and what have you, some of these things, could cause food poisoning or infections to us. So they would have to, do their investigation for them to be able to identify the source of the infection or the food poison that occurred. That is when we can actually tell. But from the general perspective, you can't really tell, because if, let's say, I have organisms around us, you have staph aureus around us. If the food is even cooked and I handle it, okay, and I give it to somebody and somebody eats it, the person could be infected. So it can actually be a number of factors. They have to do their investigation for them to bring their finding. Then we can pinpoint, the source of the infection.
Alrighty, do we have maybe types of food poisoning that you would love to walk us through?
Okay, with food poisoning, we don't have types, unless, let's say, you want to identify the type from the source, or let's say from the causative organism. So in that case, maybe you can have the bacterial ones, you can have the virus one, you can have the ones from the parasite point of view. Other than that, generally we do not have any specific thing or any specific classifications for food poisoning.
All right, so I want us to really delve more into the clinical manifestation. How would somebody say that I have a food poisoning? How do you know somebody has food poisoning?
Okay, so with the food poisoning, it actually depends. So depending on the type of organism that you've ingested into your system, then that is going to show how early the disease is going to manifest. Because with some of the organism, immediately after 30 minutes, you start showing symptoms. With some of them, it could go 2 hours, 7 hours, or even sometimes it can even take days. So that is that. So and also depending on the type of organism and the symptoms that it may show. Some of the organisms can give you symptoms like vomiting. You could have some of them having nausea. You could have some of them having diarrhea. Sometimes the diarrhea could be watery or it could be bloody. There are so many things. You can have abdominal pains, headache, and what have you. So these are some of the classical symptoms that you could have with food poisoning.
Okay, so I have a question. All right, I've actually experienced food poisoning before. I bought some wache and it was really good. So I remember, maybe 4 or 5 hours later, I started experiencing all of this. But a colleague of mine also ate that wache and did not experience that. How's that possible?
That is actually difficult. What happens is that the moment we ingest a particular toxin or organism into our system, the digestive tract or the stomach is such that it's going to produce acid to help with the digestion. So what happens is that sometimes when the organism gets into our tummy, the acid is able to deal with some of these organisms so that it can kill them off. Then you may not have the infection or the symptoms. So it will probably mean that maybe you ate sufficient amounts that he didn't, or maybe his acid was enough to break down some of these organisms such that he didn't actually experience it as compared to you. So it will depend on factors like this.
Okay, so what group are more susceptible to catching food poisoning?
Okay, so with the groups that are more susceptible to catching food poisoning, there are a number of them. One could be young children and also older adults, older people. Okay, with the young children and the older people, what happens is that their immune system is weak, so they are not able to fight off some of these toxins that we talk about. So it's basically about that. So you have the young children, usually those under 5 years. You have the elderly one, those above 60 or 65 years. Also pregnant women, because they may be going through their bodies, are going through certain changes like metabolism.
So everything boils down to immunity to fight against this.
Yes, immunity is also a very important factor when we have to talk about food poisoning. Yes.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back, talk about prevention, management, and treatment. We'll be right back.
Coffee now or hey, a sharp on to an seal.
Madam Yario, and my renti, minting PM Cotedro.
Oh, coffee, and an hour how home. Over to me at all, no, you know, what dragnet up no so I won't 209.
Dragnet?
Ah, name dragnet, me, having home be a woe. And one is a macro up no so na children ram here, you know. And now my friend pharmacist no na many, or the no, you know, by Bremen, I watch him 5 CDs pet.
And yes, where the mammy want to be put at that?
Emerson. Also download the Dragnet app free Google Play Store and now App Store nenya ahoto so papa bi. Dragnet app bear for the tombia edi kan kra.
Welcome back. You are watching Ask Your Pharmacist. Today we are coming to you from the ANC Mall here in East Legon, and our guest pharmacist is Dr. Seth Kweku Ofei Jr. and we are discussing food poisoning. All right, fam, we left talking about the causes, the susceptibility. I want us to talk about how deadly food poisoning is. Can it kill?
Yeah, food poisoning can actually kill. It is a disease that is not uncommon. What we mean is that it is very common because the organisms around us, day in, day out, we are eating. We come into contact with some of these food products and we eat, and sometimes, we come into contact or we may be infected. So actually there was a study by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, okay, that said that about 48 million people in the United States, are affected at least once in a year. That is when you take about 7 people, you are getting about 1 person experiencing, some food poisoning at least once in a year, and out of them we have about 1,200. We have about 128,000 of them being hospitalized, and also about 3,000 of them, or a little over 3,000, being dying from food poisoning. So it is not something that really kills, but then it could be it could be deadly. So you have to also be cautious about food poisoning.
Okay, looking at the symptoms, because you might be throwing up, passing stool, cramps, it gets so uncomfortable. Sometimes you think you're going to die. So I'll be very much interested in how we can treat and manage food poisoning.
Okay, so with food poisoning, what happens is that from the mild stage, it could be very easy to.
What's your definition of mild?
Mild is when the person is experiencing some mild form of diarrhea, or the person having maybe vomiting, but not so much. Okay, or at a level where it can even be managed at the community pharmacy. Okay, when you have severe form of the diarrhea, we have your temperatures going above 38 degrees Celsius. You are having severe dehydration, such that you can't even be at home. Okay, sometimes even the diarrhea that you could have could be bloody, it could be watery, such that it is severe that you have to be hospitalized. That is where you have to go there for management. But usually when you have the severe form of it, usually it can even resolve on its own. Sometimes you only have about some hours, or let's say a day, or within a week, you can have the disease, resolving on its own, because your system is going to fight off it. But what is important is that usually they experience a lot of dehydration. So you have to be taking a lot of water, or let's say ORS solution, just to replenish the fluid and electrolytes that you may be losing. Okay, so at that mild stage, you need rest. You need something like, the fluid that I talk about. Sometimes you may need anti-diarrhea medications. Sometimes you can even be given some sort of antibiotics. Okay, yes, to manage the diarrhea.
What about activated charcoal? I've heard so much about it.
Yes, activated charcoal is also used in the management of food poisoning, such that when it gets into your system or your GI, it's able to mop up some of these toxins, so that you cannot ingest them to cause shock and all those kind of things. So activated charcoal, like you said, also can be used in the management of food poisoning.
Gotcha. So what about prevention? Because I know definitely we would not love to be catching this crazy thing called food poisoning.
Okay, so with prevention of food poisoning, it is quite easy. It's just the normal hygiene that we are supposed to practice each and every day. If you make sure that, let's say, if you are sick, and you are the one handling food or preparing food, then make sure that you always wash your hands, because sometimes you may visit the loo, or maybe you may visit, or you may vomit, and you'll have to wash your hands. If, let's say, you are doing anything, you make sure that you wash your hands before you touch the food. If you are handling food like meats, vegetables, these are things that need to be properly washed before you can cook them. Even the surfaces that come into contact with food, should be properly sanitized. Okay. And finally, so I would like to say that organisms are around us. So sometimes when they come into contact with food, and they go through the cooking process, heat is able to destroy some of them. But usually you get food poisoning from things like vegetables that do not really go through the heating. So you can easily be exposed to food poisoning when you are eating some of these things that do not really go through the cooking or the heating process.
So can washing our hands thoroughly help?
Yes, of course, it helps.
Okay, because the reason I'm asking that, when you go to some of these chobas and stuff, people only wash their hands with soap after they are done eating, not before they are eating. So if you are watching me and you are fond of that, don't do that, because that could, get you catching food poisoning, which we do not want that to happen. Fam, what are your final words?
Okay, so my final words are that once we eat each and every day, you can't do away with food poisoning. So you are bound to have them at least once in a year, or maybe more times even in a year. So you just have to practice the hand washing that we talk about. You have to make sure that if you're handling food, you're washing your hands very well with soap and water. You're making sure that any surface that come into contact with the food, you are making sure you are washing them well. And I advise that people who manage restaurants and people who cook for the public, they have to really ensure that they are, actually practicing the food hygiene and hand hygiene properly, so that they do not infect the food for, we to consume, for us to also be infected. So these are some of the things that we can also do or put in place to prevent some of these things, or to even limit it.
Thank you so much, Farm. I love the fact that it can be prevented, because people like to think that food poisoning only happens when you eat out or when you're eating in a restaurant. But matter of fact, you can actually catch it from the house too. So I hope you take all of these guidelines, put it into good effect, and it will definitely keep you an inch away from catching this food poisoning. Thank you so much. Dose for Healthy Living is up next. Stay tuned.
Today on Dose for Healthy Living, don't share medications. Do not give others your medications or take medications from others, even if you think it is the same dosage or for the same condition.
Thank you so much for sticking with us. I really hope you enjoyed today's discussion on food poisoning. Food poisoning is actually very, very dangerous, and I hope that you did learn a trick or two on how to make sure that you are not susceptible to catching this deadly, deadly, deadly thing. Remember that this show, Ask Your Pharmacist, was brought to you by Dragnet, your #1 online pharmacy. Baby, I dream for prescriptions ain't cheap. So Dr. Choso Kotwedra, what do you say? Who download the Dragnet app on the Google Play Store, the App Store. So, Pharmacist nebefro, baby, I wish biara, Accra, Boko, baby, I will be a Dragnet will deliver to you. Omundro no suboye for customer service is exceptional. Dragnet assures you of quality, convenience, and affordable drugs. Dragnet is your #1 online pharmacy. This show was also brought to you by the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, Amicus Generis Humanis. Pharmacists are indeed friends of the human race. This was also brought to you by the Letta Pharmaceutical with Lettamin. It's a multivitamin and mineral supplement for total strength and vitality, promotes mental performance, and boosts the immune system. Folaron Zinc, on the other hand, is a folic acid, iron, and zinc supplement that effectively reduces the risk of iron deficiency, supports immunity, and promotes health and wellness. Let's have more soon. Shemu ba kupetata she ufa etumi bua eku nsunsun bia we yemu bia nti wodi we me ya cha ko pharmacy sesia kache pharmacist ne se wo pe Letamox, Folaron Zinc, Letamox, and Litamin are all available in any pharmacy near you. For bulk purchases, contact Letta Pharmaceuticals on 030-222-4613. Letta Pharmaceuticals, quality healthcare. This show was also brought to you by the Lady Pharmacist Association of Ghana, LAPAC, and the Young Pharmacist Group. This was also supported by Fort. It's a sugar-free vitamin C plus zinc supplement. You put it in water, it dissolves your drink. It's amazing, tastes delicious. It's good for you, good for the family, good for everybody. For bulk purchases, contact Samuel's Pharma on 050-164-6494. Like I always say, whatever that goes in you is merely irreversible. More to the reason you always have to ask your pharmacist before you swallow that pill. My name is Peggy Samuel, and you can find me on Instagram at FieryPeggy. If you missed any of our episodes, no worries. Go on YouTube right now at My Pharmacist TV. Like, share, comment. Before you go, make sure you have subscribed. I'll be coming your way same time next week. Until then, be safe, be kind, and stay healthy. Bye-bye for now.
Ask Your Pharmacist was brought to you by Dragnet, your #1 online pharmacy, and the Pharmaceutical Society of Ghana, and proudly sponsored by Lita Pharmaceuticals, quality healthcare, with support from Fort, your best vitamin C plus zinc supplement from Samuel's Pharma.